Welcome to Brand for Good, the show for purpose-driven leaders who want to build timeless brands and create sustainable impact. I'm Lorraine Sugart, former PR and marketing executive turned founder of the disruptive agency Prosper for Purpose. I've worked with some of the world's most beloved brands, and I'm here to help you elevate your brand identity, visibility, influence, and impact. Are you ready to brand for good? Let's go. Hello, and welcome back to Brand for Good. I'm really excited to have the conversation that you're going to be part of today. I am talking with David Gaz, and he is an international creative director, filmmaker, and photographer. David is the founder of the Bureau of Small Projects, and that's a name I just love. It is a branding agency that leverages the experience of their people with Fortune 500 companies and major brands to bring those talents to help small business startups and nonprofits to make a big impact. Welcome, David.
Oh, Lorraine, thank you for having me on your podcast. It is so awesome to talk with you.
Well, it's so great to talk with you. And I'm fangirling a little bit because I have seen your documentary, Kindness is Contagious, which is a film all about being nice. And I could wax philosophically about it, but I'd rather have you talk about it because my understanding is that working on this project was the genesis of your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not only a film about being nice, but it's also about the benefits of being nice. And where this came from was a few years back, we were politically in a very similar time like today, where everybody was being mean and nasty to each other. And it was trickling down into everything, into our business, into our clients. And I was feeling very frustrated. And I stumbled across this article in Scientific American by these two guys, Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler at Harvard University, who had scientifically proven that kindness is contagious. That if I do something nice for you, Lorraine, you'll do something nice for 4 more people. And then each of those people will do something nice for 4 more people, and so on and so on. And being in branding and marketing and all that, we love anything viral like that. So
Yes.
I thought, I thought this is kind of cool. And then on top of that, I thought, hey, maybe this could solve my problem with people just not treating people very well. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm starting to think that maybe it's always been like that. Know what's going on today too, but we can always do our best to change things. And so with that in mind, I thought I'd use the resources I had at my disposal, which were fairly considerable. Our company worked exclusively with Fortune 500 brands and big brands. And so we had big budgets and a lot of money to throw around and stuff like that. So I thought, what better to do than throw it into a film all about being nice? And while we were filming this, I realized, because we were talking to scientists at places like Harvard, Yale, Stanford University, all these super smart people, and it became painfully obvious this whole thing about nice guys finishing last is totally bogus. That nice guys actually do extremely well. And what we learned by talking with these people, all backed by science, is that nice guys on average actually make more money than not nice people, which surprised me. They have better jobs, which didn't surprise me because who hires jerks?
Right.
They have better relationships, family, more friends, which obviously, and very important in today's, social media environment to have lots of friends. And then they physically live longer, which blew me away, that nice people live longer than not nice people. And
well, so that seems like poetic justice, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so with this, being an entrepreneur, I started my first business when I was 15 or 16 years old. It was an ice cream truck. And being a lifelong entrepreneur, I've only had like 1 or 2 jobs in my whole life. And being a lifelong entrepreneur, I was curious with if there were companies that were using kindness as a tool for success. And so as part of the film, we decided to interview, Silicon Valley startups, green energy companies, healthcare organizations, nonprofits, people that were making the world a better place and using kindness to do so. And when we started talking with these folks, I got jealous. My day job was sucking every last penny out of people's pockets so they can buy stuff they don't need, like designer tennis shoes and electronics that are going to go obsolete, in a week. And so I started to get a little bit jealous, and I thought, how could I make my day job be making the world a better place? And so with that in mind, I thought, what if I teach the people that are making the world a better place how to suck every last penny out of people's pockets, but put it to use for good, for the betterment of mankind?
What a concept. I love it.
And so that was the genesis of the Bureau of Small Projects. It started as an incubator within my old company, which is why the name, the Bureau of Small Projects. And we tested a whole bunch of names, and it was kind of funny because one was Zentropy, which I really liked, but everybody loved the Bureau of Small Projects. So that's kind of how it came about, through testing and data and all the stuff that we still do. But anyway, so we wanted a name that kind of said to the people we wanted to work with that we care about you. And then it turns out it was very popular. And then about a year into it, my business partner came up to me and said, "Hey, David, maybe you ought to start paying more attention to our real clients." And he even did the air quote thing. And this is the most beautiful moment of my life because I'm like, hey, maybe you haven't seen our balance sheet, but it turns out that we're financing your real clients now.
Oh my goodness. It was that dramatic.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I had always thought this was going to be like a tiny little pet project, but I loved doing it so much that obviously I spent all my time doing it, which pissed off my partner. But then we got one of those partner founder fights, and I wound up taking the bureau and he kept the old company.
Interesting.
To show the power of kindness, we've doubled in size just about every year since. We started out with like 2 people. I brought somebody from my old company with me who was brave to take the risk. And then we just doubled in size. And this year we made the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in America.
That is amazing. And yet there's a part of me that says, no, that's not really amazing. That's, that just people want what you're talking about. People want more kindness in the world. I feel like,
Absolutely.
there's so much that is going on all the time. And this year has really been problematic. And businesses that are trying to make a difference, and there's so much data. You talked about data. Well, the data is in. It started with millennials, but also Gen Z. And hey, I know people that are Gen X and baby boomers as well, that they really want to invest and buy products and services with their values. And they want the companies they support to be values aligned. And when a company does the kind of double speak, like we say we do these things and we care about these things, and then they're found out that their behavior is not aligned with what they say, they are really raked over the coals. And we won't name any names, but I'm sure we're both thinking about a few of those right now. So this alignment to do, we call it doing well by doing good, but, to actually aligning your values with your business practices is just, I really feel like it's a concept whose time has come. And I think your company saw that and kind of is riding that wave right now, in part because of course, about the kind of the mind shift that has started, the paradigm shift really, but also because what you do is phenomenally good. I just encourage everyone to go to your website and check out your work because it's just so inspirational.
You are so nice. You are so nice. I want to say something. By doing this film, one thing that was very interesting is these are scientists now, mind you. It's not like The Secret, put it out in the world, it comes back to you. Although there's some science that explains why that does. But these are scientists. And the thing that we kind of uncovered was that I think deep down inside, everybody is kind, or the vast majority of people. And I think that, one of the things that shocked me was how many people kind of went against their nature because of this nice guys finish last. And they didn't want to finish last, but they struggled with it because the kindness is a tool for success. Everything that humankind has done has been cooperative. We put a man on the moon. It was not one person that did that. It was a whole massive group of millions of people. I mean, when you think about the people over history that came up with the ideas, the tech that did that, down to the people that have to smelt the metal for the rockets and organize this whole group of people. And while making this film, what came out, at least for me, was that kind of the glue that binds people together is kindness. That I do something nice for you, you do something nice for me, we become closer. We're what's called a superorganism. And forgive me if I use these sciencey terms, but
no, I love the sciencey terms. Bring it on. And if people don't know what they are, they'll Google them, I'm sure. Just don't Google if you're listening to this podcast on the road.
Well, a superorganism, to make it easier, is kind of like an ant colony, bees, termites, naked mole rats. It's a group of organisms that all work together like a single organism. And humans are like that. We work collectively. We have collective knowledge. We work together in teams. We've kind of evolved that way. And as a result, we've evolved kindness. You know, it's a way that we collectively take care of our kids. There's, you know, everything we do kind of centers around kindness. I think every once in a while we deviate from that. Again, the whole nice guys finish last, which I want to clearly say is bogus, but everybody wants to win too, so they kind of deviate from that. But Dasher Keltner at UC Berkeley reminded me that it's like a pendulum. Whenever we sway too far away from that nature corrects it and we all go, it swings back to helping and being kind and thriving as a group in the world.
I love that. That's so
it
great.
happens to be great for business and branding too.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your work with clients. So we discussed briefly before we started this podcast that when I saw startups that, you know, in your list of people that you work with and was looking at some of the things you did, some of your startups are very large and a lot of your clients are very large. So tell our listeners a little bit about how that, because word of mouth, reputation management, all of that are part of branding as well. But how did that kind of take off? You know, did one client refer to another? Did people just see the things that you were producing and come to you? But what did that look like?
Very, very good question. First of all, I want to say that our clients are not just big startups. There's some well-funded startups, but we started this company to work with entrepreneurs. Every big company once was a very small company.
True.
Our very first client is still with us. That's the thing I'm most proud of anything that we've done. It's grown this size just by overwhelmed me. I never expected to get our company to get as big as it is now, but it is a little bit by design. One of the things that we started out doing is we wanted to apply all of the experience we had with big brands and Fortune 500 companies to people that are making a difference in the world. And as a branding company, what I noticed is when people would come to us as smaller organizations and they're looking for branding, they were looking for a logo.
Yes.
And one of the things that big brands do is it's not at all about logo. It's not about fonts and pretty colors. It's about strategy. And this is primarily what we like to teach our smaller startups and smaller businesses is to look at branding the way that the big organizations do, because that's kind of how they became so big. And what the key to everything is what makes you different and better than your competitors.
Right.
That's why people will do business with you. And we call that the package. So the process, and we practice everything we preach, everything we do for our clients, we've done and do for ourselves. And before we introduce something new for our clients, we try it on ourselves first to make sure that it works. And that's super important. But with the way this whole process starts is you need to learn about your competitors. You need to learn about what they do well. Don't diss your competitors. You know, they're in the queue with you.
And the pie is big enough for everybody.
And the pie is big enough for everybody. You need to look at what they do well, because you have to be at least as good as they are. And then look at what they do poorly, because that's where opportunity lies. That's where this different and better lies. And then once you've learned about your competitors, then articulate what it is that you do differently and better than they do for the people you want to work with. It's not different and better in everything throughout the world. The world, like you said, there's a piece of the pie for everybody. But what do you do better than your competitors for the folks that you want to work with? And that's the reason for them to work with you. If the answer is nothing, then the answer is you have to be the lowest price, which is a horrible place to be.
Yeah, because the writing's on the wall, then someone will always undercut you. So it's kind of a race
Yeah.
to the bottom at that point.
Yeah. And well, one of the dangers too is when you do something a little bit differently and better, people copy you too. So you always have to be a little bit ahead of the game as well.
Yes,
Always
true.
have to be improving all the time. But then once you've learned to articulate that, and it sounds simple when I explain it like that, but I tell our clients it's like the game of Go, where it takes a second to explain, but really a lifetime to master, because you always have to be improving and doing better and better and better. But we call that the package. And then once you have the package, once you can articulate what it is that you do differently and better than your competitors, marketing and attracting clients actually becomes pretty easy, because all it is at this point is getting it out in front of people. And then never before in the history of the world have we had more ways to get stuff out in front of people. And the good news for startups is it's also phenomenally inexpensive now. We're in the golden age of entrepreneurship. It's never been easier to start a business. We have more competition, of course.
I was going to say that's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's easy to start, but that means there's a lot of people out there doing it. But I think what distinguishes your company, at least for me, is the high level of creativity. And so there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast, and I don't know if they have an in-house marketing team, if they're working with an agency, but I also think that there are startups of various kinds, startup leaders. I do get emails from listeners. So, what can you tell listeners who maybe have a marketing person, but not a marketing agency, about how they can either think more creatively or bring some of that to the forefront? I think the point about strategy was spot on. And I agree, that's where everything starts. So I also want to say that once you have that in place, that's where you can then get creative, because we know what ingredients we have to work with. So how are we going to mix them, right? And what else are we going to add? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how would someone think about a creative process for their own business?
I was going to talk about the creative process a little bit, but I want to share something with you. It's kind of a journey. Like, people have always asked me, what are your goals? And I've never been a goal-driven person. I always pick the journey. It's all about the path that you take. And, one of the things that's kind of interesting is I'm getting a little older now, and I'm seeing my friends getting older, and a lot of them are going into that stage where they're like, oh my God, our company just hired somebody younger, and, they don't have a mortgage, they don't have a family, they can work less expensively. Then they'll start criticizing that person. And then they say, look at my work. It's been, people today don't understand creativity, and they don't understand like the importance of history and foundation and stuff. And then they'll show me their work, and almost to a T, I look at it and I think, oh my God, it looks like they're stuck in the 90s, right?
Oh, ouch.
And along with that, there's the thing, if you point one finger at somebody else, remember there's three pointed back at you.
That's right.
And so I started to look at myself and say, yeah, they're probably saying the same thing about my work. And so about creativity, the one thing I've learned, and I think it's the key to success, or one of the many keys to success for a business, is always work with people smarter than you. Hire people smarter than you, hire people more talented than you, and then let them do what they do. And then for me, I look at what the stuff, when I look at our website, I'm blown away by how creative it is as well. None of that comes from me. It's always from these people much, much more talented than I am. And it was a turning point and an epiphany when I started doing that. You throw your ego aside and just hire people that are smarter, talented, work harder than you do. That's the key to everything.
I love it. That's really an interesting perspective. So tell us a little bit about one of your favorite clients. Nothing confidential, obviously, but give us kind of like an example of a client that came to you that you worked with that you felt especially proud of?
Now that's a tough one too, because this whole method that I mentioned where you identify what it is that you do differently and better than your competitors.
Yeah,
And it's a tool to attract people to you. And then you throw in kindness in the mix, right? Because
right.
kindness is contagious. We talk about kindness as our philosophy. It's one of our core values. You attract the most amazing and wonderful clients. I hear other friends of mine that own agencies and they talk about the client from hell. We do not have a client from hell. Our clients are adorable. We have 3 to 5 people every single day that reach out to us, though, knock on wood. So we're also very selective about who we
Got it.
take on as clients.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with money. We just select the delightful, wonderful people. If you're delightful and wonderful to work with, we'll figure out a way to take you on as a client, regardless.
Yeah, I love that. Ditto.
Well,
I've been through a similar process, so I love hearing that. Yeah,
I'll tell you, it's a great way to wake up every morning and just
just be
everybody you talk
excited.
to is wonderful. And then when you have problems, because one of the things we tell everybody is we're 5-star reviews are like 4.98 or something everywhere. And I tell people it's not because we're perfect. We screw up as much as anybody, but it's because we always make it right. And when
Yes.
you have adorable clients, you can't screw up because, you can't say, oh, screw them. They're terrible. Because when they're adorable, it's the most painful thing in the world. So I think you should do this anyway, but you always make things right. And when you have adorable clients, we're partners and they always work together with you to make things right. And it's a wonderful environment to live in.
I love that. I mean, these are really good quotes that I am writing down to remember. So I hope if anyone's listening and they're not driving, that they're taking some notes as well. I love that. Like it's progress over perfection, but it's a commitment to the client that it will end well, and that none of us are perfect. We identify our KPIs and we're going after certain targets that we have deemed to be indicators of our success. And sometimes we don't hit one. Sometimes we decide that the goal that we had wasn't even the right one, that we
Yeah.
need to kind of adjust that. And so, what do you find most important, the most important skills for helping your clients be successful?
I think what we bring to the table is strategy. It is identifying the key to everything really is identifying what it is that you do differently and better than your competitors. And we've been doing that for a while now. So I think we're able to coax it out of people. I mean, the actually doing it better and having that idea comes from our clients. We can't tell them how to do their jobs better,
Right.
but we're very good at coaxing that out of people. And I think that's our big skill. I mean, everything has to look gorgeous. That's kind of the cost of entry these days. We hire people. Our team is the most talented team I've ever worked with. But I think what we really bring to the table is that different and better. What makes you different and better than your competitors?
I love that. So, before we started recording, you did tell me about one small startup that you're working with called Switzerland. And I said, oh, I bet people may have actually heard of that one. So, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to work with a country?
Yeah, it was really interesting. They came to us, and I was a little stunned when it was a country. And then I said, we're the Bureau of Small Projects. And they said, oh, we don't care. We just like what you do. And then honestly, it wasn't much different. It was, we're dealing with people and people are people. And it was kind of cool working with the country.
I bet.
We've got Blue Cross Blue Shield just came to us they wanted us to bid on a project with a $50 million budget. And I was like the same thing. I was like, with a country and a budget like that, with an organization like Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'm like, good God, we're the Bureau of Small Projects. But it made me feel really great that whatever we're throwing out to the world, that different and better attracted folks like that. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
love that.
And I think with Switzerland in a country, I mean, I love saying, oh, yeah, Switzerland, yes, the country.
Yeah.
Put it in parentheses whenever I put it in a proposal or something. But I love it that we're able to come up with something that not only affects or interests small organizations, but then the big ones see the value in it as well. Because I think by perfecting or synthesizing the process down to something that simple, it not only makes branding less expensive, but it also makes it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, talking about working with clients that are good people or adorable, as your word, we talked about strategy being the pivotal foundation, actually. I mean, from strategy comes everything, right? And we talked a little bit about creativity. Now, I want to talk a little bit about impact. So, kindness has its own impact, but branding for good and having clients that are doing really cool things or want to improve, there's also that. So, how do you guys, or do you kind of track the impact that you have through the work with your clients?
So we have a process we call the Wheel of Fortune.
Ah, I love the names you have for things.
Yeah. Well, when you're working with small organizations, when I work with big brands in my previous life and a handful of clients now, the people we work with are people that have MBAs and they're marketing experts and they
Mhm.
understand all these. And I hate these acronyms, KPIs and
I
stuff
know.
like that.
I was going to clarify, but I thought anyone listening to my podcast by now knows what a KPI is, key performance indicator. So,
But with that in mind, when we started working with people that were founders, they're people that don't really have, most of our clients don't have huge marketing departments, sometimes none.
right.
And so we wanted to create everything in a language that people understand without having a marketing degree. The different and better is just another way of saying value proposition, which is the marketing
Yes.
term for that. And
Right.
the Wheel of Fortune, it's a way to measure KPIs. And what it starts out with, imagine a circle with 4 dots on the circle.
Okay.
The top dot is strategy. The dot to the right of that is whatever drives traffic, ads, emails, could be flyers, could be postcards. The dot on the bottom is the landing page of your website or the pages on your website. And then the last dot would be heat map and analytics, which is software that you can put on your website to track the success and the results. And so the reason we call this the Wheel of Fortune is, as you know by now, in our world, everything starts with strategy.
Right.
And that different and better is the headline of your ads, your flyer, your email blasts, whatever you do, you want to lead with that. And then you need to apply it to your website. Make sure every single word on your website supports what makes you different and better. By the time they get to their website, they already know what you do. So you don't have to explain to them what you do. You have to explain to them why to work with you. But this is our best guess, right? It's all about the data these days. If any marketer ever tells you they have the secret sauce and that they can explode your business with just a few little tweaks, run for the hills. It's all about the data. And so that last component is looking at the heat map and analytics. The beautiful thing about a website, and especially if it's on a platform that you own and you control the data, is people can't lie on a website. Even your friends will lie given the best intentions. They don't want to hurt your feelings or everything you do is magical because they care about you so much. But that doesn't really help you succeed. And when you look at the analytics of your website, that tells people how long they'll spend on the page. If they spend a lot of time, they like what they're reading. Nobody sits on a website they hate.
Right.
And you look at the pages that they go to, which gives you some insight into what they're interested in. Then heat map software tells you how they behave on the page. The section on the page that they spend their time on gets bright yellow or bright red. The sections that they kind of quickly go over are like a darker color, like a blue or a purple or something. So you can see what interests people even on the page of your website. And so what you want to do, it's kind of like a video game. It gets a little bit addictive. And so what you want to do is make changes. And the Wheel of Fortune, the reason it's a wheel is you look at that data, you look at the stuff people are interested in, make sure you put that all the way up at the top because that keeps people going. And then the things they're less interested in, just rewrite it, make it better, try to bring out that different and better. If they're not clicking on buttons, make your call to action a little more concise or enticing. Sometimes changing a button to a red or a bright color.
Yeah, the colors. It really does make a difference.
It's crazy. And so then what you do is you look at the data and then you put together changes for you look at the strategy and you make changes based on strategy to the ads or whatever's driving traffic to landing page of your website. Then look at the data again and see if your changes were successful. If they weren't, revert back to what you had before and do a different set of changes. If they weren't successful, get even better, make more changes again. And then the wheel of fortune again and again and again and again. And that's how we track the success of the stuff we do for a client.
Yeah. And you have to be kind of an addictive problem solver and, just really want to be someone who I've worked with people who have said it's exhausting. And I say, I think it's invigorating because it's like, that didn't work, but we can do,
Oh, it's like a video game. It's like a video game where you get success and money if you win. It's awesome. And it gets surprisingly addictive,
It does. But maybe you have to be crazy marketing people like us to appreciate that. But I think it's great. I think what you're doing with your business is great. I do want to say that, you bring experience from Levi's and Sony and IBM, Warner Brothers and Disney. So, as well as a variety of museums, including the Louvre, right? So, that's just, you've worked with some incredibly creative companies. And I guess, are there any lessons that you learned working for these large businesses that you think influence your day-to-day work with your agency?
I would emphasize that the lesson that I've learned, I feel lucky to have had all these opportunities. One of the big lesson I've learned is that I think that the process is very inefficient and I think it's frustrating for creatives, which has allowed us to attract a phenomenal team of people as well. But when you're working with those large organizations, and to be clear, we don't work with those organizations anymore. We generally do intrapreneurial projects for them. Warner Brothers, we're not doing Warner Brothers themselves. We're working on their video game entities. And one of the things that we adamantly, regardless of the size of the organization, try to eliminate waste. My old company, it was all about billable hours. And so you try to make the process long and complicated because you'll make more money. And the people in these organizations, it's not their own money that they're spending. And they kind of liked working with the creative people. So you kind of play off of that and it makes for a very long, expensive process. But then the creative people get frustrated because they almost to a T, my whole path with those organizations, the creatives always said, oh my God, the client didn't pick the good one. And what we do is we only present the good one. We tell people that we're advisors, we're not labor. If you use us for labor to generate billable hours, we're going to be very expensive, even to your small organization. If you take a look at the experience that we offer and you embrace that and you listen to what these incredibly talented people in our team tell you, they're just going to tell you the good stuff because they want the good stuff, the creative stuff there to get out to the world as much as you do. And if you listen to that and trust them, the work's going to be amazing. And I think that's the biggest thing that I learned is experience is amazing and to just trust the people you work with.
Really sound advice. I love that. So where can people find you, David? I know you write for publications, you do public speaking. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Google any combination of Bureau Small and projects and will come up.
Well, we will have links in the show notes. So we'll have your company link and a link to your LinkedIn if you're there. I think you are, and some other things that we'll get from you. But I was just in general, like, are there places where people can read more of your writing or learn more about you, how you work in general? I know you said you were kind of hidden on the website.
Yeah, and that's intentional. It's like I mentioned, it's kind of like the thing I love about the Bureau is it's an opportunity for me to work with all these people smarter and more talented than myself.
I love it. Yeah.
So that's why I'd say go there. You're going to get better stuff than you get from me. I curate these people, but they're the real smart ones, not me. I write for Forbes. I write for
I
Newsweek.
just do these little things on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all about the people I work with. So if you want the good stuff, just Google Bureau Small Projects or any combination of those will come up first. And then, I'm happy to talk with anybody that wants to talk to me. One of the advantages of having an organization like this is I don't charge for my billable hours. I get to just chat with people whenever the need or desire comes up. So I've got a real fun job. But if you want the really smart stuff, talk to people on our team.
I love it. David, thank you so much for being my guest on Brand for Good today. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time with you.
Oh, likewise, Lorraine. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Brand for Good show. If you like what you heard, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and leave a review so other purpose-driven leaders can find this valuable content. To learn more about building a brand for good, please visit prosperforpurpose.com for more resources and information on all the ways you can work with us.